At this point, the bodywork was nearly finished, so I decided to make a terrible mistake. I took a look at the front wings and thought that they looked a bit boring. So I did the thing you should do with all projects that are nearly finished and completely redesigned them. And of course now they look worse. As I'd hoped, after cutting out a strip from the centre of the wings, I could place the two parts side by side, and they fitted together just fine, with absolutely no gaps whatsoever.
Oh, come on!
So with that done, it was absolutely clear that nothing could possibly have gone wrong with the process. However, just to be sure, I decided to carry out a quick measurement to make sure that both sides were symmetrical. The important measurement is that each wing is 125 millimeters below this wooden beam. I was able to drop it back into place and look at the impressive results where everything fit absolutely perfectly. Apart from that bit we can fix. It's not too bad. And that bit too. We need to adjust that bit too. But the rest of it, yeah, that looks pretty good. Wait, what the?
Oh, come on!
And what you can see here is me unwrapping something that I've had in my loft for years. A genuine headlight pod from a Jaguar XK120. And what you see right here is me putting the headlight pod onto the car and discovering that it doesn't remotely fit.
Oh, come on!
Last time, I asked if people were interested in hearing about the games and the VR simulators. And the general response seems to have been,
I'm not fucking interested.
and what could possibly go wrong? This is, of course, all great until you then discover, when you put the wings back on, that they don't fit. And the keen-eyed amongst you may also have noticed that having started this job, that I had forgotten to put on my welding gauntlets.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
So, with the tabs tacked in place, I could then remove the door and weld them properly. This was all going very well indeed, right up to the part where I needed to complete the final tack on the upper bracket. And just at that point, my welder exploded. Nice. So all I had to do now was reassemble the hinges back onto the door and put everything back together again. It was at this point I then discovered that you couldn't open the hinges properly anymore. Obviously, at this point, I then realised that I hadn't got the rear wings attached anymore, so I thought I'd better pop them on just to make sure that didn't change anything. Unfortunately, I don't have that luxury, so I'm stuck using rubber extrusions that look a bit like this. And the problem that I've got is that with the door catch where it is at the moment, it's sitting exactly where this rubber needs to seal against the door. So, with the latch in the right place, I then needed to make a bracket for the catch to bolt onto. So this was a very similar process of making a template with some cardboard, finding some flat bar stock, doing some cutting, doing some drilling, and doing some welding. And I'm very pleased to say that having measured everything twice, as you should always do, cut once, welded the bracket together, it did of course fit perfectly. So, did it fit now?
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Yeah, so that's the thing that happened then. Now obviously, this is a very retro-inspired car, so we're not going down the carbon fibre route. I'm also a big fan of leather and wood interiors, so I think we need plenty of that. I also like some of the exposed details you see in this spiker, so I think we should have a look at doing that too. Sadly though, the reality of where we're starting from looks a bit like this. Somehow, when I cut the instrument panel out, and even though I thought I was cutting it against a straight edge, I actually managed to cut the top part of it to be not quite square. In fact, it was actually kinda banana shaped. So I had no choice but to straighten it up. This, however, of course meant that the whole dash panel is now slightly too small. Once this was cut out, I tacked it in place just in case we needed to move it later. And this was a very wise decision, as you will shortly see. With that all done, I then excitedly went to see if everything bolted up properly. And did it? Now the eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed that I actually welded in some extra strengthening brackets. And whilst 3mm steel plate is pretty difficult to bend, I really don't want anything to flex. So I took the opportunity to toughen everything up a bit. Once I'd let everything cool down, I bolted it back in and went to see if the connecting rod fitted. Now, I've mentioned how much welding can warp metal, so I wanted to clamp everything down to stop this happening. And then I noticed something pretty tragic. Somehow, the whole dash frame has become banana shaped. This was done by a process of measure, measure, measure again, stand back, look at it, measure again, and then finally, having thought about it for a while, cut, hopefully, just once. So, did it work? So the obvious thing would be to do is take this and move it this way a bit. The problem with that is we've then got the air pipe that feeds round to the demist vents, and that is sitting precisely in the wrong place.